if you believe in something with a passion, it's very easy to get sucked into essentially overdoing it.
It just crept up. And then I just went one day, I said, this is not me.
Actually, it never feels easy. Business always feels hard.
And this is my canary in the coal mine. I wasn't having any fun.
If life's not an adventure, then what are you doing, right?
It's a pretty crazy world out there. Personally, I've never been more excited. I really haven't.
Welcome to this edition of the Energising Leaders podcast. It's my very great pleasure to welcome Chris Baréz-Brown. Thank you, Chris, for coming up from all the way from Lyme Regis.
Yeah, that's a journey.
To join me. My favourite description comes from The Guardian, who described you as a long-haired, twinkly-eyed cross between Richard Branson and a wizard. That's got to be, I think, the best quote I've ever heard. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your journey? Because, you know, army through corporate life to what you do now.
With a bit of wizarding. On the way, yeah. So look, I did start off in the army, very young, 16. Soon found out I was more of a lover than a fighter. But I learned a lot in the army. There's a lot that you go through that dictates the way that your mind works and the way that you energetically show up. So it was a good foundation. Then I followed the promise that we all had, which was if you get a degree, then a job you want, then a job you're good at, then you'll be happy. So I did all that, and I wasn't. I was running the biggest brand in Europe. My friends and family thought I should be delighted. Huge budget, it's very young, but it just didn't fit who I was. So I ended up throwing it all in. I went traveling. I read everything I could on creativity, on innovation, on personal development, on leadership, largely to work out what I wanted to do with my life. But in doing so, I fell in love with what I do now, because for me, my passion is getting people to jump out of bed, loving who they are and loving what they do. And I've been doing that for many years now in lots of different forms. And each time you think you've got it right, you learn something else, right? Because, you know, the way that we show up and the way that we're designed is such that it's an eternal discovery. It's always an adventure.
If life's not an adventure, then what are you doing, right?
Sure.
Because you never know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Absolutely. And the more we learn to embrace them and actually create them, the more technical our life becomes.
Brilliant. So Energising Leaders, clearly, like yourself, is all about energy.
Yep.
And when we've spoken before, we've talked about how we sort of come at energy from two different places and meet in the middle.
Sure.
So we might explore some of that later on. In talking about energy, there's a sort of felt need to turn up every day and be super energized. But life isn't always like that.
No, it isn't. No.
So what are the things that for you very particularly are your go-to places for Chris to reconnect with energy, particularly when under pressure?
It's a really good question, because actually recently I lost my energy, which I haven't done before in such a dramatic way. So I'm very much tuned to it. So I really do believe in getting your physical energy right first. If that's not there, you've got nothing to play with. So you need to sleep well, you need to rest, you need to exercise, and you do nutrition. And I have a little morning routine that works particularly well for me. That involves being in the gym, getting my dogs out. I go for a swim every morning. And I avoid anything tech to start with, because at that moment when you wake up, you're pure, you're conscious. There's so much possibility in your life. And as soon as you get into tech, you go into autopilot. So I'm really quite disciplined about making sure that start works well. That's really important. And then for me, once you've got the kind of physicality in there, then it's all about making sure that you have a good connection to the stuff that's important to yourself. So connection to yourself. You know, am I doing stuff on my values? Am I doing stuff with meaning? And am I making sure I'm showing up and doing stuff that at the end of the day, I'll go, that was a good day, you know, because if not, I lose energy quickly. Am I connected to the people that are important in my life? You know, my friends and family, my loved ones. That connection is super important. And then obviously the hippie of me, a bit of a sense of connection to something maybe a bit bigger, a bit more, consciousness, which again is something that I tune into quite a lot, especially with where I live, because where I live, it's like the nature's amazing, and if I connect to that, that will carry me through the hardest days, to be honest.
So you're reflecting that you had a sense of energy loss.
I did.
Are you able to talk about that a little bit?
No, of course, yeah, happy to.
Reflect on because you clearly got some very well embedded disciplines to support your energy, and in spite of those, you've had a moment where you said,
Yeah. Do you know, it's a great learning, Andrew. It's painful because, the learning is no one's bulletproof. And actually, if you don't keep an eye on this stuff, things can creep up on you. And basically, I've got quite a lot of family challenge stuff going on. I hadn't been on holiday since August, which is very rare. But there were some things that came up which meant we couldn't. Juggling lots of that family stuff has been quite difficult. And then I've got some business challenges. We've got a new tech startup that we're funding. There's all sorts of things going on that basically meant I was a bit thin. And what I noticed, and this is my canary in the coal mine, I wasn't having any fun.
Right.
When I'm not having fun, I'm taking things too seriously. I'm not myself. My energy isn't flowing, and that's when I realised I need to do something. And I had a quick escape over to Italy, a quick time with my wife. We've been working on different parts of the world, so we reconnect there. Lots of good physical stuff. A bit of sunshine makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Some great food, and then it all came back again. But it's interesting. It was a bit of a boiling frog. It wasn't obvious it was happening. It just crept up, and then I just went one day. I said, "This is not me," And I think it's incredibly common for people to have that type of challenge, where nothing's really off at any given point. There's not one moment that you go, "Actually, that's what turned me." It just creeps and it builds and it builds, and it just stacks on top of itself until eventually you go, "Do you know what? I'm just not feeling like this is the life that I signed up to," and that just happened to me recently. So there we go.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And, I absolutely identify what you're saying. It's if you believe in something with a passion, it's very easy to get sucked into essentially overdoing it.
Sure.
And then you do, on the Sunday evening, think, well, actually, I'm not raring to go. I'm not excited about getting stuck in. And I like your canary in the coal mine metaphor. I think that's brilliant. So thank you. So if we maybe shift our focus to more of the kind of macro level. So I would say certainly in terms of my career, there's more going on at geopolitical, macroeconomic, right through to individual impact in terms of those wider influences than I can recall in my life.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, of course, that has an energy impact. So what are you observing about the impact of just the sheer volume of stuff that people are having to deal with? And we haven't even mentioned the AI word in the middle of all that.
Yeah, look, what I'm noticing is there is a lot of overwhelm at the moment. So the problem with our psychology is that we like to have a certain amount of control and predictability about things. We also like some adventures and surprises. And it's the balance that actually makes an interesting life. And at the moment, it seems to have tipped a little bit more in the favour of unpredictability. I mean, just look at the news. I mean, the stuff that's going on a daily basis is quite destabilising. So we've got that going on. We've got these technical advances. I mean, I'm obviously quite connected to AI because we've got an AI tech startup. So I follow that very carefully. The stuff that we are launching today wasn't available 2 months ago. It didn't exist. It's that fast. And people are feeling like they just don't know what their future looks like. Now, I'm personally incredibly excited about it because I think it will move humanity forward in an amazing way. But there's a cost. There really is a cost. I don't know if you've seen in the news this week, but there have been some speeches to students at universities about AI and saying, look, don't be scared, it's all fine. And the kids have been booing the speakers. And it's the first time I've seen this where people are just going, we can't get jobs. And we don't know what our future looks like. The way this world's been run, we don't buy into. There's a lot of dis-ease around this, and it's totally understandable. So, I mean, we're doing a lot more work now about helping people learn to embrace that change in a more healthy way and how to use their human advantage more. And actually, when people understand, there are some things that tech can do that is amazing, it's brilliant. There's some things that they'll never be able to do, and actually that's the bit that we should be focusing on. They start to get more confidence in how they show up and what they do. So yeah, it's a pretty crazy world out there. Personally, I've never been more excited. I really haven't, because when everything's in the air, there's more of a chance you can get it to land where you want it to. When it's static, it's harder to do the shifts that I like to do with my clients.
Okay, interesting. So you feel that actually you can tap into that sense of uncertainty to advantage.
Yeah, it's more fluid right now. We're dealing with a lot more fear, but it's more fluid. Yeah.
I had a conversation this morning with one of my long-standing clients, and we were reflecting on exactly this. So, he's a very successful CEO, turned around a business, pointed it in the right direction, and the various possibilities. They might be bought, they might be buying a business, lot going on.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I'm feeling challenged right now because I like it best when I'm in control.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's an interesting statement. And unsurprisingly, I invited him to reflect on whether that belief was serving him right now.
Sure.
But is that sort of part of what you're talking about? Do we need, as human beings, never mind as business leaders, to adopt a different attitude, a way of thinking about how we navigate these times?
No, definitely. I mean, my next book is called Big Leader, Little Leader, and it's all about our relationship around our identity and what leadership is. And, once upon a time, little leader was always in control. It was in charge, had all the answers, did their job better than anyone else. That old model is so dead. Because if you are trying to be in control, you are hanging on by your fingernails, and it's a horrible. It's exhausting. You'll be found out. It's just, and it's a lie. You can't do that. In this world. What we need to do is create the conditions for our people to be amazing and to make sense of it themselves. And if you can get your teams to be self-directing, self-evaluating, eventually self-rewarding, you step back from that, you just hold that space in those conditions. That's the leadership role now. And for a lot of people, that's frightening because they've built this identity of being the monarch almost, I'm the one that makes the decisions. I'm the one that's in control. And actually, I'm the one that creates that whole kind of mood within that organization. And actually what they should be doing is stepping back and saying, no, this team, that's the brilliance. How do I let that come out and facilitate that? Which for a lot of people is frightening because that means they are not going to direct things. They are not going to have the answers. They're not controlling what happens as a result.
I wonder if I might move to invite you to reflect on some of your work with businesses. Because you go into a wide range of businesses, you work with some very big brands that we would all recognise. And we touched on the beginning that we sort of met in the middle of energy, and I'm coming from a almost sort of data-driven, systematic approach to understanding what energizes you. You're coming from a slightly different angle, arguably. It'd be really good if you could maybe talk about some of the things that you do with businesses and the impact it has.
Yeah, so look, when I get into energy, if I say to people, how are you? It's amazing in Britain, they just say, fine. That's the only allowable response, right? So the first thing I do is get them to understand that actually you're never just fine. There's more stuff going on. And the way I break down energy is into 4 component parts. If you're a big hippie, there are 7, but I use 4, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. And actually, we're really good at the physical stuff. Generally, we're quite aware of that now. Compared to 20 years ago, we're incredibly good at it, right? Where it gets complicated for most people is the mental, emotional, and spiritual. And I probably spend most of my time as a doorway into energy on the mental energy, helping people understand that we've, with our design as gatherer hunters, we have an inbuilt negativity bias. We aren't designed to focus. We have problems with being on autopilot. And when you actually start to articulate those in a way that people get it, they go, oh, that's why. When people ask me, how was my day? I go, I've got no idea. Because I've literally had back-to-back meetings. I can only survive on autopilot just doing habitual routine things. And therefore, I can't answer the question, what's needed here? Because when I'm on autopilot, the answer is what I did last time. I'll just keep doing it. And when people get that, they go, I see why I get caught in these traps. I can see why if I behave differently and I manage my time in a more effective way and I get better focus, I can step change my impact. So a lot of it's about personal awareness. Then it's about personal agency. What can you do with that differently to shake things up? And I've got a really simple approach, which is if I share any of that stuff with a leader and it doesn't give them immediate benefit, then ignore me. Simple, right? If it doesn't help you straight away, walk away. But you know what? This stuff is so simple, but it's so profound because it's about who we are and how we show up in our design, that invariably, if I give them 5 things, 3 will stick forever because they'll go, do you know what? That just helps me live a better life. And with all these change, we do massive change programs. We do all the hailing work. If it doesn't help them live a better life immediately, and them as a leader, let's not worry about the corporate agenda. Let's make sure it's helping them. Otherwise we're wasting everyone's time. So that's my focus.
So I think I hear in your ways of working that you value small things that done consistently have a big impact.
Yeah.
So do you have in your mind, your top 10 small things that you can do?
Yeah, I mean, they keep evolving, but but there are certain things that you just know work.
Right.
So I love helping leaders get more focus. This is just something, because everywhere I go, there's no focus. They're doing too many things, and they've got this belief that if they do more stuff, then they're going to be successful. So they just cram everything into their diaries, and then they get diluted and they're on autopilot. So I love the expression "busy is easy."
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Tim Ferriss says busy is lazy, which is provocative.
Provocative, yeah.
But actually, it's true.
Yeah.
When you're busy, you don't have to think. So one of the things I encourage my clients to do is, in the morning, when they do their morning routine, before they've looked at their phone, they've done some exercise, and they go outside, get clear. What's your big thing today? The one thing that when you've delivered it, you'll be high-fiving your way home because it's meaningful and significant. And get clear on one thing, not a list of things, just one thing.
One thing, yeah.
And prioritize it. Make that the first thing you do. And depending on where your sweet spot of focus is, but most leaders, we think best in the morning, especially first thing in the morning. Keep that bit safe. Do that first, and the rest of the day's bonus, isn't it? It's just a gravy after that. If you do that thing.
Yeah.
But so often they just go, "No, I've got too many things," and there's no prioritization, which means they don't change their energy and their approach depending on what's most important. So that's a simple thing.
Yeah.
But it's a discipline. And, it's the discipline that makes the difference. It's amazing how many people just want to rock up and just wave through that kind of day of busyness and just go, "Wow, I've just been so flat out today." It's like a badge of honor.
Yeah.
So that's something. And this is about being more intentional. It's about being more conscious, which is half of the battle, I think. So that's one.
Yeah. Well, and a great example. So you referred earlier to a moment in your life where you, as it were, apparently had all the crown jewels and yet you weren't happy. A lot of people in that situation get frightened and don't have the courage to make the shift.
Yeah.
So if someone is in that place right now and listening into us today, no one else is listening, they can admit to themselves that maybe this isn't the fun that they thought they were going to have, what would you say to them?
Change something.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it sounds very glib and easy, doesn't it? But the challenge is when you're going through a transformation, which you are if you are not having fun. Yeah. That's just a message. That's just a signal for you to pay attention, right?
Yeah.
We don't necessarily enjoy that moment because we don't know what the answer is.
Yeah.
So we know this isn't right, but we don't know what will be. So in that moment, and I've been there numerous times in my life, it's quite hard to really roll around and go, "Oh, great, it's transformation time." Because what you're saying is, I don't know where I'm going to be living. I don't know what I'm going to be doing with my time. I don't know if I'm going to be successful. All of a sudden, everything's up in the air. So we often hate that moment. So number one, I would say, this is just part of our human design. We go through these phases. It's normal. Don't sweat about it. You will pop out. Just have confidence. And by the way, when you talk to people about the most important moments they've had in their life, it's always been a transformation like that.
Right.
Every time. They'll say, "I was doing this and then I changed it and now my life is completely different, so much better." So you get some confidence for the fact that other people have done it. Then the second thing is, and this is one of my rules of thumb that I do with every company I work with, and it's one that I live with, which is, if it feels hard, change something. Just change something until it feels easy again. Now, you don't know what it's going to be that you have to change that makes it easy, so you keep experimenting and playing with it until you unlock it. And I see it as a game. It's a game that you have to play. If you take it too seriously, you will not unlock the right stuff. So you've got to have some fun with it and just try some things out.
Yeah.
It's a bit like careers. I always think when you're going for careers, it's a bit like shopping for clothes. You can go to a window and it looks amazing. You see it, then you pick it up and you go, "That feels fantastic. That fabric's great." You put it on, you go, "Oh, it looks awful." But when you put the one on that fits, you'll never take it off because it's who you are. And it's that experimenting and trying things out that gives you the surety that you've got it right. It's the same for these changes. You've got to try things, you've got to play with things until you go, "Oh, that feels better," and a step into it.
So I suspect there's people listening in who might respond to your assertion, keep changing until it feels easy, that actually it never feels easy, and that business always feels hard. Do you think there's some wiring in there, some cultural conditioning about actually it is hard?
I think it depends on how you define business. I mean, implicit in business, there's difficulty because you don't know what's going to happen when you do something. You can't predict.
Yeah.
So there is something implicit in that. Now, if you don't like that, you're always going to have a hard time. It's simple, right?
Right.
But if you love that, because actually, isn't that the genius of business? I mean, you know, if we knew what was going to work, there'd be no fun in business.
No, it'd be dull.
It'd be really dull. And we'd all be, you know, squillionaires and we'd have nothing to do because we've solved every problem.
Yeah.
You know, where's the fun in that? The joy of business is we just don't understand what's going to happen tomorrow and how people are going to change with our product and our offer and our people and how they engage. And that's what keeps it interesting. Now, if your relationship with business is such that actually, God, it's difficult, I don't know what to do here, I'm out of control, then yeah, you're going to have a really tough time. But if you change your relationship within your identity and go, this is a game, then you can only win.
So I do like the idea of business as a game. I would say I've observed through my career that at the beginning we worked hard, played hard, but there was a certain distance that we knew it was a game.
Yeah.
And particularly at the senior levels in business today, I often feel that or observe even, that people's sense of self, their self-identity is so wrapped up in their business results that they've completely lost any sense of separation.
So dangerous. So one thing that I will remind people of constantly, and it's in my new book, you are not your work.
Yeah.
You really aren't. You're way more spectacular for that.
Yeah.
Your work's just a part of your identity. And if you associate so much with it, you are in a dangerous position. Because then, you know, you are hostage to the success of your business and how things go. And as we know, we can't predict that because that's the nature of it. Your identity is unpredictable now. Not a great place to be.
Yeah.
So, and I understand why people do it. It's, you know, it's a part of our human design. And of course, we associate with the things that we put lots of energy into. But it's just not a balanced way of being.
Yeah. Balance is an interesting word. So, just speaking for me, I just don't relate to the Tao and the idea of balance at all. As a personality, and I think I've given up even trying to find balance. You know, I'm either all in, or I'm off. You kind of feel a bit like that, but you've just used the word balanced life. How does that connect?
I think that is your balance in that particular case. So we've got slightly different weightings.
Right.
And when I say balance, I don't think everything should, I mean, this kind of work-life thing, whatever, I mean, that doesn't happen. No. I mean, I love my work. I want to put loads of energy into it. And I hope I'm a bit unbalanced that way. Yeah. But there's a balance that fits me and who I am and how I show up. And I have to have some identity that's reinforced through other things that I do rather than just work. You know, and, you know, being a father, you know, being a husband and, you know, doing what I do with my dogs and going sailing and all those things are quite important. Music is really important to me. And so if I didn't have music, that's probably the thing that keeps me most in check because I get that wrong all the time and it's very good to do. And it's really nice to do something that's creative that I'm doing purely for the fun of creativity. You know, writing books, you know, I want people to like them and I want them to sell. Writing music, I don't care. It's purely for me. Okay. And it's the balance of those pursuits that I think helps keep my identity in a place that's healthy. So that's the way I talk about balance.
Nice. Well, Chris, it's been wonderful having you here today. We always close with an invitation to you, to our guests, to give us 2 nuggets to take away. Always, of course, around energy. And one would be, I think, at the personal level. Yeah. And then one would be more sort of thinking if I was a leader of a team and nurturing energy, what would the nugget be? What would you like to leave us with to take away?
Well, look, so on a personal level, I'm obviously obsessed by my other startup, which is called Tio. Talk It Out. And this happens to me all the time, Ange. It's quite embarrassing, but if it's something I need, I get obsessed by it. So it's always my personal passion because somehow it's helped me. So TO is a very simple thing. Basically, you use it as a way of getting clarity in your life. And the reason this is important is obviously 95% of our processing is subconscious. So most of us have no idea why we feel the way we do. TO stands for Talk It Out. You talk into the app as you walk and talk on anything on your mind, anything that needs more clarity. And the app is designed, by the time this podcast comes out, the new one will be there, where it basically spots the emotional intensity in what you say and pulls it out. So when your subconscious goes, this is important, it captures those bits for you. So you talk for 5-10 minutes and it goes, hey, here are the 3 things that are going on. It puts them into psychological models, 13 psychological models, and says, I think this is why it's happening. This is what I'd do if I was you. And you know what? I use it every single day. And what it does is it does that thing, that big thing in the morning where you want to get focused. I do that in the morning. I know exactly what it is. I know exactly what I need to focus on. I get all my energy aligned behind it. And in doing so, I feel so much better because it kind of, it lifts your state. Yeah. Because confusion is not a nice state. Clarity is a beautiful state. So I encourage people to try TO. And by the way, if you don't want to get the app, just do it with a buddy. Go for a walk and talk with somebody else. And that's super, super useful. So that's number one. Second thing for me, when it comes to leaders, I think the most important thing for us all to do is just to shift our perception of what leadership is.
Yeah.
Let's go from little leader where it's all control and direction and having all the answers and making decisions. We need to get into big leader, where our job is just to create the conditions for our people to be amazing and then trust that they will do a much better job than if we were holding them on a tight rein, because they will. And your team and how you do that is going to be very particular to you because the context will be different from another leader. But if you learn how to do that, it's an amazing place because the responsibility comes off your shoulders and it becomes shared and people grow and learn every day and then only magic can happen. So that would be my encouragement. And you know what? That's a life's work of experimentation and play, but it's a really fun one.
Chris, thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure, Andrew. Thank you for having me on. Big fan of your work, and I'm really glad that our worlds have intersected.
Likewise.